What is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231. It is Tuesday, October 27th. Here to break down the 6-game Champions League slate on Draftkings. Now, I have been getting feedback that people want some Fanduel, so I am going to throw some Fanduel, like specific type of picks and strategy in at the end. It will not be long because if you have played Fanduel before, you know it's really just a goals-centered approach. It's goals and chance created. But I will just throw some in at the end. So if you are Fanduel specific, jump ahead a ways. But I do think, the way I do these is going kind of game by game, giving you some of my ideas on, how the game's going to turn out and top plays. So definitely would recommend watching all of this. Before I am get into the picks, couple of housekeeping items. First off, bottom right of the screen, you'll see the subscribe button. Please hit it. If you check the notes in this, there is a link to a Twitter contest that we are running. If you subscribe to the channel and go ahead and I think it's like and retweet that tweet, you are entered to win $100 the moment that our this YouTube channel hits 1,000 subscribers. We're at about 909. So if you've been watching for a while, please jump in, give yourself a chance at some money. And just really do appreciate that. Other part, I get a couple of DMs about how people can join FSI if you want the premium content, which is, really just a breakdown of all this, but a lot more in chat. It gives you my core plays, gives you, after lineups are out, who's on sets, all that stuff. Also, just hit the link to the cheat sheet. That'll take you to the website, which is right here. You'll see at the top, it says subscriptions. That'll take you to the store. You can get everything for as low as you do a $3 a day package, which is a great way to test it out. $10 a week. It includes every single league, EPL, Interleague, Liga MX, anything out there, we've got you covered. All right, enough sales, enough asking you to join stuff. Let's jump into the picks because that's what we're here for. So not going to be going to the early slate, but you see Bayern's a huge favorite. You're going to stack Bayern on the early slate. It's just going to be you get the pieces right. Let's jump into the main slate. And I'll just say, just looking at the odds, Liverpool fan here. I'm not that happy that Liverpool is the biggest favorite in the slate. I do think that DraftKings did us a favor by pricing them down. But I'll just say this, and I'm going to go game by game on it. I do worry that there's maybe some rotation Liverpool needs because, Klopp subbed Mane and Salah off at 60 in a really close game versus Ajax last week. They actually had to give a ton of effort to win this past weekend in the EPL, and now you turn around after that game. So you had a game Wednesday, you had Saturday, and now you have Tuesday. So it's a lot of fixtures quick, and they unfortunately haven't had a game that they've just rolled over, or not rolled over, that they just rolled in where it wasn't a ton of intensity, that type of thing. So look for some rotation there. The other big game is not the second biggest favorite. I think City overall minus 231. God, they're just not playing well. Like West Ham was a struggle. Obviously, they drew 1-1. De Bruyne might be back and starting, which changes the complexion of City completely. But they just don't look great. And now you have Aguero is going to be out. Jesus is out. So you once again have the problem that they don't have a true striker, which, in that movement that City runs where they're trying to attack the bylines and get, back to them, kind of crosses back to the middle and short crosses oftentimes. If you don't have the guys making the right runs, it's really tough. So I don't know. Even though they're the second biggest favorite, I don't know how interested I am in City. Who I am very interested in is Atalanta. Now they are actually the least big favorite on the slate. I didn't even realize it until now, minus 101, but 3.75 total. I kind of thought that Ajax versus Liverpool last week could be the game to take off. I could not have been more wrong. Wednesday was not a great day for me, but the bookies think that this time it could be the game to take off. And I will just say this: Ajax does not have any chill. Atalanta does not have any chill. If they're up 2-0, they're not like all of a sudden sitting back in a shell. You don't have to worry about them not attacking. They only have to play one way, which is balls out, attacking at all times. So I think that if you see on the cover, I put Ilicic and Gomez. Ilicic is back, which is huge for them. They actually lost on the weekend with him back, but he was really good. A stack of like Zapata, Gomez, and Ilicic could be really low. But I'll get to that in a couple minutes. Let's kind of go through the pricing and some specific plays. So I do want to start off with Liverpool versus Midtjylland, because I do think, obviously, with Liverpool as the biggest favorite, that's the most important thing, or the most important game. I think I do want to make one other point. It's going to be really interesting to see what these game logs do to people. So, I think a lot of sports and DFS right now have gotten super sharp, where game logs, people like kind of realize don't matter. Like, it used to be in the NFL, for those of us who have been grinding for a while, you have a guy coming off like 4 or 5 touchdowns or some sort of outlier game, and everybody's like, okay, you got to play him. And nowadays, people are like, okay, it's an outlier. There's almost like too much information out there. I think soccer is one of the few sports that we still don't have a ton of information. I've never done like an in-depth YouTube search, but I don't think there's a ton of other videos like this out there. I know RotoWire does a phenomenal job. When I first started soccer, they're definitely one of the people out there that I follow along. So, you have like RotoWire, you have us. I don't even know if anybody else is doing videos or doing like consistent content out there. So, there's not a ton of other info. So, people all of a sudden go to Liverpool and they go, all right, let me sort by fantasy points per game, because DraftKings only put in the logs from last game, nothing else. So, if you think about like soccer as a whole and some of the people that are hitting the lobby today because nothing else is on, like how many people really know all these guys? So just going to be something interesting. But yeah, sort this, and you have Dreyer as the, top scoring guy after last game. So I think that could be really interesting. But we're going to go by salary. So I think Mo Salah is going to be the most popular player on the slate. If Milner does not start, he started last game, so I don't know if Klopp is doing some sort of thing where he wants Milner in the Champions League side for the group stages. But Salah would be on penalties. Obviously he is the center of Liverpool's attack. He and Sadio Mane are the guys that you want from Liverpool from a scoring upside. And at 87, 8,400, you can actually stack them together easily. Biggest concern I have is, are they going to play 90? They both subbed off at 60 last game. Neither one of them did much of anything. That game versus Ajax really was difficult to break down for Liverpool, but they should not have any problems with Midtjylland here. Midtjylland's actually a really good defensive team in the Dutch league. Issue here is like they don't play the likes of Liverpool. They don't play the likes of Sadio Mane, Mo Salah running at them with service from TA and Robertson. Like that's not something they have to deal with week in, week out. So they are kind of a minnow in this big pond of the Champions League. So Liverpool should win fairly easily here. So those are the two top targets. I think if you want leverage off them, assuming that Liverpool's front line doesn't shake up, for Roberto Firmino is going to be, a fifth of the ownership of those guys. Just keep in mind, Firmino, there's no sort of floor there. Like, whereas, Mane and Salah, like, let's take out these terrible game versus Ajax. They typically have some version of the floor. Now it's like, maybe 7-8 DK, which for their price is not a great floor by any means. But like Firmino's floor is like 2 DK. So just keep that in mind. Firmino doesn't score or assist. He's the guy that could wreck your lineup, but I think the ownership leverage on him will be significantly lower. Just a few guys to watch that maybe could start. Xherdan Shaqiri actually did sub on for Liverpool versus Ajax. He didn't start the weekend. You had Jota started with the big three over the weekend domestically, so maybe Shaqiri gets a run here. Divock Origi, I don't know. I mean, Champions League champion here, but savior for Liverpool. I don't think he'll really start. You could see Jota 6,700, Minamino 7,800. One of those guys maybe get in the mix. I don't think like any of them are any locks. I will say if Shaqiri started, he's probably the one that you'd be really interested in, because if he started over like Robertson or TAA, I should say not over, but one of those guys didn't start, Shaqiri did, you might see him jump on some corners. All right, the other guys to mention of Liverpool are obviously Robertson and TAA. We saw TAA outscore Robertson for the first time of the season domestically. Robertson, obviously, last week was much, much better than Robertson in the Champions League. You can play them both. You're going to have the salary to do if you want. They split corners. TAA maybe has a little bit more upside because he's over free kicks, so it gives more goal equity. All right, I think that's Liverpool and Midtjylland. Yeah, I'm not talking about Midtjylland at all. Evander 6,800 is kind of laughable, and if he's in, he splits with Dreyer at 6,100. I don't think you're playing either of the guys. If you want, full Liverpool stack, you want to throw in Allison, go for it. I don't know if it's just like to pay up a goalie. Hell, I don't ever know if it's just like to pay up a goalie. You pay up a goalie. Like here's strategy. You pay up goalie when the site lets you pay up the goalie. Go for it. But if all of a sudden you're starting to like having to pick $2,900 center backs that you're hoping to get 2DK to pay up for a goalie that's just going to get stained and get you -2, whatever. Goalies, whatever fits your lineup is the right play. And obviously whoever scores the most, that was definitely the right play too. All right. So I do want to jump into the other game that I mentioned that I'm most interested in, which is Ajax versus Atalanta. Look, here's the thing with Atalanta, guys. Like, the coolest part about stacking them is, like, where the goals are coming from for the most part. Like, when all three are in, Zapata, Ilicic, and Gomez are going to be the instigators of the attack. Gomez and when Ilicic is in, he has been taking some corners over the last 2 years, but he and Gomez are huge volume. Like, nobody. I would argue that they have the highest. These three, Zapata, Gomez, Ilicic, any one of them could show up with 40 DK. That attack is that good. I think Ajax is a good team. Hell, they just won 13-0 over the weekend versus what is that, Venlo, who's not even like a relegation candidate team in the Dutch league. And they had 4 or 5 goals before the red card. So Ajax is good. Now, is Ajax good enough to deal with the craziness which is Atalanta? I guess we'll see that today. But Gomez, I think, is the 4 play in the cash play, 9,300, 20.8 DK last week. Did have a goal. The only concern is he's not been crossing as much this season as he has in past seasons, but that could change at any time. He is going to have a majority of sets. Again, if you see Ilicic start, which I think he may, they may split. And then Zapata, to me, would just be kind of the wild card with them. I think Gomez has got to have the ownership. I don't think Zapata and Ilicic are going to have a ton of ownership unless people are following logs. Again, that's kind of the unknown today. But I love the 3 of them as a stack for GPP. I am definitely going to be running one of them. At that point, you probably fade some Liverpool. But, hey, at those prices, if you could do just a flat-out punt anywhere, you might be able to fit them with like a Salah. Haven't really played with that, but that would be interesting. All right, as we go down, if you want any Ajax exposure, Dusan Tadic taking most PKs, is an attacker, or taking most sets, probably actually on PK duty. I don't really research that too much. 7,500 is fine price. Here's the thing. Atalanta stays open. They're going to allow chances. So, I don't think that if you like Atalanta and you're stacking Atalanta, that it actually makes sense to maybe run some back, because Atalanta could easily be in like a 4-3, 5-2 type of game where there's still some juice back on the other side. Just kind of going through. Gossen's 5,200 is fine. I don't ever think he's like a must, but he does give you good goal equity from his wingback position. Gossen's is always much greater than Hadabor, who I'm just not a big fan of DFS-wise. Neris 4,600, I think, is a really interesting punt from Ajax if you do think that there's goals aplenty on both sides. Gravenberch, so he takes some corners, but he's more of like a central midfielder with some more defensive responsibilities. I think he could very much get pinned deep. So I don't think that there's gonna be a few other value plays in this range that I would rather play than him. But again, if you're just going full game stack, I guess it makes sense. Missouri did play fullback last game. Freuler was really good for Atalanta. Good player, actually, but central midfielder. Yeah, I think that's about it. You have some other punts from Ajax, like the defensive roles, but I don't think that they're needed by any means. All right, we're going to start going fast enough. So those are my top two teams. So Atletico versus Red Bull Salzburg. All right, so I kind of wanted to – I was thinking about this last night. I think that Red Bull Salzburg could be overlooked and interesting. And then the more and more I started thinking about it, I'm like, guys, I was gonna talk them up as maybe a GPP team. We need so much from them to make it work out on this slate where we know there's going to be goals in Liverpool and there's going to be goals in Atalanta, that I think it's almost a mistake to expect Salzburg. If Salzburg scores 2 goals versus Atletico, that was a good result. So I wanted to come on here. I was going to talk about them as a GPP play, maybe mini stack. And now I'm ending and just saying I don't really think that, other than maybe just a dart, it's really worth it. I can't see them going into Atletico and scoring 3+ goals. So I will say this: I could very well see them going to Atletico, and Sozonaldo, as I call him, after that free kick when he was playing for Hungary. But Sozoblai, if you don't see Juno Zovic in, I'm going to take a monopoly set pieces, and he's just very, very active in open play. So I still think he could score 20 DK himself at 7,900 and be a great play. But, fully stacking them, maybe you can just play him with Daka, and that's it. Just hope that you get if there are 2 goals, they just happen to be from those 2. But I wouldn't go ahead and stack it, go full stack with, Ulmer or Koita or all these other guys. I think it would just be a little mini stack. And that's all I'm going to say about Salzburg. Atletico is a really good defensive team. Atletico also has some of the pieces that I'm interested in. Now, Red Bull Salzburg can get open enough that Atletico could very well be actually a good GPP team and hang a few goals on them themselves. So Suarez is 7,200. I don't think will go owned. He has huge upside. João Felix, huge upside. I think for Trippier at 5,600, even though he's over the majority of set pieces for them, I think it's kind of a gross price. He just doesn't cross the ball nearly as much as we want. He doesn't do any sort of open play crossing. It's all derived from set pieces. So I don't love him at 5,600. Carrasco, I would have really liked if he wasn't out. So over on the left now, there's going to be 2 things that happen. Either Thomas Lemar starts, which is just bait, as we saw in the interleague slate when he was at 2,900. It's oh man, I get a set piece taker under the minimum. He subs at half with 1 DK. So I don't know if that's the play. What I would really love to see is that if they started Lucas Torreira in the middle, and Koke actually gets to go outside of the left. Koke, who's a phenomenal player, 4,000. If he would be over some set pieces, I think that's a phenomenal play. Honestly, probably close to a core play for me. So he's the guy I'm really interested in here. Unfortunately, look at chat if once that lineup comes out, and I'll let you know what's going on. But Lodi, 4,700, I think he's a better play, point per dollar than Trippier. So 4,700, if you land there at defender, I think it's fine. He's taken some sets before too. Marcus Llorente, I can't stand him after what he did to Liverpool, but 3,700. Sometimes he plays as a second striker. So, or he could actually end up playing outside left. So 3,700, I think, is fine. There's our boy Lemar, 3,400. Guys, even if he starts, I don't know you can do it. That's probably bait. All right. Anyhow, let's go to the next game. Madrid versus Gladbach. I don't have a ton to say here. Madrid was awesome versus Barcelona. If that Madrid shows up, they could easily score 2-3 goals here. I don't think we know with Real Madrid, right? They lose to did they lose to Cadiz, or did they draw? Then they lose to Shakhtar in the Champions League after Zidane puts out a terrible team. I don't know. But here's a cool thing with Real Madrid. Benzema, Toni Kroos, and Sergio Ramos would be your plays. Ramos is always going to be over-owned for really what's PK equity. But hell, at 4,400, if you showed up with him or you had 4,500 in utility, you love the rest of your lineup. I'm starting to become a believer at this point that, whether you want to call it the UEFA, or there's conspiracies that Real Madrid has to win. I don't know. The amount of PKs he gets is insane. And then here's the other deal. When he's under 5,000, he has open play value. He's a threat on set pieces. He takes free kicks outside the box. He's a hell of a free kick taker at that. So 4,400, maybe I need to take my stance over the last 2 years that he's a mistake to play when he's too cheap. So I think that's fine. I'm not really interested in Gladbach pieces. If you want to go them YOLO GPP, especially with how bad and brittle the back line of Madrid's work. That's fine. I think Hoffman's a little overpriced, but play a good player at 6,800, Thuram 6,200. Those are the guys that you could target for goal upside. All right, Olympiakos versus Porto. Again, not too much to say. This is the lowest total on the slate. Valbuena is DFS gold, 9,200. If you want just a direct pivot off of maybe some Gomez ownership, this would be your guy. Issue, dog away from home. He's on PKs. That's all I can say. I think he's leverage. I think, in cash you play Gomez, but Valbuena obviously always a good player. He has a set monopoly. Kind of walks on the pitch and already has 10 DK. Outside of, the only other guy I kind of want to mention, actually, I guess I'll mention two. Oliveira, with Alex Telles going to Man United, Oliveira is over most of the set pieces for Porto. He is a defensive midfielder, which is the guys that we have to be careful with, right? When they're on sets, we go, ooh, they're cheap. But almost all their DFS goodness is going to rely from set pieces. Oliveira is a good player when you look in the Portuguese league. Does have some open play value as well. But again, if you see him as the deepest line, number 6, even with sets, they're all going to have to come, or most of his DFS goodness is going to come from there. The only other thing I'll mention, where is he? This, I don't even know his first name. Yeah, I should not have clicked it. Zaidu Sanusi. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be know much about him other than he played, I think it was either left back or left wing back versus City. 2,900 for a favored fullback if starting, that works. So just watch that Porto lineup, see if he's in. Final game, Marseille versus City. I don't have a ton to say about this game either. You don't play pieces versus City for floors. So Dalvin, I'll just say this actually. Dalvin, you wouldn't play for his floor, but you could pay for goal equity because City is just allowing goals. But the way that their style is, they're gonna be on the ball a ton. So you don't try to go, oh, this guy's on corners, I'm gonna lock in the corner taker. You would lock in the upside. So, but Dalvin's a good player, 7,100. I don't think it's the slate for it, but again, if you just want like a low on goal, go for it. Same deal with Payet. Just understand, don't lock those guys in for their floors or for their sets. You would be locking them in or playing them because you think that they can score a goal. You could also go Benedetto, who's leading the line for them, 3,600. That's probably where I would go if I'm just trying to go for a lone goal. 3,600 for a striker versus a team that doesn't keep clean sheets makes a lot of sense to me. On the City side of things, obviously Kevin De Bruyne, 10.9. Who knows if he's fit for 90? I would just say this. I'm like, seems crazy to say that Kevin De Bruyne isn't a lock, but Kevin De Bruyne isn't a lock. I don't know if he's a lock for 90 minutes either, coming off the injury. So, and then, I kind of talked this at the beginning. City without a striker, they somewhat get lost. Like Mahrez or Sterling or Foden or whoever they have play as like a false 9 doesn't do the job that a Jesus or Aguero does with movement. And City is a team that completely relies on movement. You've got to be making great runs for this Pep system to work. So I just think I'm mostly off of City. But you want to go to Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, he's always a great play. Walks onto the pitch with double digits. Sterling, if you see Mahrez, and he still splits with Mahrez. Mahrez takes a few corners, but 8,600, I'll take Salah all day. Let's see where Cancelo's price is. 5,300. I will just say Cancelo's been awesome. Was great. I think he's had like 3 straight like double-digit DFS games. He's always a really, really friendly DFS player, so I think he's good. All right. Final part, I did promise some FanDuel content. I'm not going to pull up FanDuel's site or anything or pricing, but I just kind of want to talk about FanDuel's strategy in general. So on FanDuel, you don't get crosses. It's all really goal, assist, chance creation. You can't project tackles. So you just got to go where you think the goals are. I kind of mentioned Liverpool and Atalanta are the 2 highest totals. So that's where we want to use our attacker spots. So probably some version of like Salah, Mane, Gomez, Ilicic. I have not looked at pricing. So I'm just giving you like overall strategy as I see the slate and once I start building my lineups there, what it's going to look like. So that's where I'm going to look at for my goal upside. Yeah, I don't see any. Those are the spots I want to use like most of my salary on those type of guys. Then at defender, I want to immediately go down to the biggest dogs, and I want to look if I got cheap center backs. The reason for this is, again, we don't get crosses. So the fullbacks that we use on DraftKings, because we want to get 5-6 crosses, maybe a shot assisted, that type of thing, they don't do nearly the job on FanDuel, yet FanDuel always has them priced up. We want to look for center backs that are going to get clearances. Clearances are actually projectable, because if a team is going to get pummeled or not have possession, the other team's going to be in their opposing third, making chances in front of goal, so to speak, or getting the ball in front of goal where the center backs are clearing them, which is, I think it's like 1.2 or 1.3 FanDuel points. Then they get some block shots, they get tackles, they get interceptions, all these things. Most dog center backs in FanDuel, you can almost lock in for double digits, and they are sometimes cheap. You can get them for $5-6. Lets you fit all your studs. So that would be the goal. We're going to go like Salah, Mane, Liverpool piece, probably an Atalanta piece, Gomez, Ilicic, Zapata, and then look for dog center backs. So, immediately I'd be looking for center backs from like Marseille. Ajax center backs could actually be good because of how attack-oriented Atalanta is. Midtjylland center backs, Salzburg center back, those type of guys. See how that fits, and you should be off to a good shape. Guys, thank you once again so much for watching. Hope that this helps, and good luck today. See you.